Hi, Elin. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be a part of this. It feels really, I'm both nervous and excited.
I'm so excited to connect with you. It's been a while, and I feel like we have so much to talk about. And I always start by asking my guest if you have a daily practice of staying mindful and grounded, and what that is.
Well, I use meditation a lot, and I guess different types of meditation, because sometimes something works for me, and like just staying with my breath and counting my breath. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm too bored with that. I can't focus. And then I go in for like a guided meditation where I'm taken on a journey. Or this morning I just did like a guided morning meditation where it was just like setting the tone for the day, sort of making myself a bit more positive, I should say, about going to work. Meditation is like my main thing, and then using, I guess, I always talk about my meditation practice as something that I keep with me for the entire day, hopefully. So like if I'm at work and I start to get annoyed, I sort of go, okay, what's happening now? And then, use what I've learned in meditation to try and ground and get back to myself and sort of realize what is my trigger, what is annoying me? Can I just sort of stay a bit more zen with it? So yeah, meditation, and then using all that I've learned throughout the day. So that's kind of my daily practice.
That's beautiful. Sounds great. And I think like having tools like that can be so helpful, because we never know when we start our day what we're gonna run into, and just having like one point that feels, and maybe it doesn't happen every day, but some days we're just flowing. But I really love meditation in many forms as well as a daily practice. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Elin. We're both based in Sweden, and maybe you want to start by sharing with the listeners who you are and what you do before we get into all the other topics.
Yes. Well, where do I start? Well, I guess I should start with that I'm a priestess of Avalon, because that's like my main focus in life, I suppose. So I've been a priestess for about, 19 years, something like that. I trained in Glastonbury with Kathy Jones, and my work in this world, well, there's so much, but what I do hold ceremonies, mostly online at the moment, but also out on the land. And I create online courses connected to the goddess and how to get closer to the goddess, how to open up to goddess energies. And I also, because I love meditation, I have a few meditation courses, and I want to share more about mindfulness. I'm a mindfulness instructor as well. And I guess my main focus is to, as I've been working on myself for these past sort of 27 years or something, I've been on this path. Everything that I'm learning, and everything that all the tools that I've learned, and all the kind of ways to connect to goddess and to connect to the one, I love sharing that, and I love trying to help other people who want to get closer to goddess or to the divine, to help them. So through my ceremonies and through my courses, when I talk about it, I get really passionate, because it's like that's what I love. I love doing that. I love holding ceremonies. It just feels so magical. So yes, I guess that's what I do.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you've been on a path for so long that I would say like that many are waking up to now, but you started so many years ago. And I have so many questions about that, because I'm wondering, like living in Sweden, like how did you end up, and back then it wasn't like all over social media and all of these places, like how, first of all, how did that relationship start for you? Like, and did it start early in life, and was it an experience you had, or how did it all begin?
I remember there was this mind, body, spirit fair in Stockholm, and they were really small back then, and there was this Aztec Indian man there who did ceremonies, and they sort of he spoke about Mother Earth, and I was like, whoa, this is it. What have I been doing? That was like a bit of my first awakening to that there is something else, and that just resonated so strongly with me that I started to kind of wonder what's all that about. And I did some workshops with him, and then I just didn't really like him. He didn't really resonate with me after a while. But then when I lived in London, I walked into the Watkins bookshop, and there was like a shelf of books on paganism, and I was like, what? There's other people out there. What is this? There's a whole new world I didn't know. And I remember saving up for my first book, and it was only like $8.95 or something, but I was an au pair, so I had no money. And that book, it was called Earth Magic by Margaret MacArthur. And through that book, I took my first steps, like into meditation, into learning about the elements, how to experience them, how to explore them. And from then it was kind of the path towards Goddess as Mother Earth. It was kind of, that's where I started feeling really connected to Mother Earth energy. And then I moved to Australia to study, and I kind of met a few pagans there. And I also started to read more. And but I guess when you start, there's like all the books on the shelf. It's just like, I want that one and that one and that one and that one, because it's just so much. And then when I moved to Scotland after Australia, and I went into this little bookshop somewhere in Edinburgh, and there was a little shelf on paganism, and I saw In the Nature of Avalon, a book, and I thought, oh, what's that? And that was like a book by Kathy Jones on pilgrimages in Glastonbury. And then I think in the back of that book or something, it said, oh, Kathy also has a goddess conference and a priestess training. And I was like, oh. And that I mean, when I read that, I bought the book on the pilgrimages, and I didn't really know, I didn't really know where Glastonbury was even. I knew it was down south somewhere, but I didn't know that much. And I think that's when the calling to Avalon was just awakened, and I was like, I didn't really know what it meant, and I didn't know Kathy, obviously, and but that summer we went down to Glastonbury, and I spent a day or two at the Goddess Conference, and I met Kathy. I went on some walks with her and went to Avebury, and on the bus, I remember this so clearly because I was on the bus, and she'd been leading us through meditations and all kinds of things, and we were on the bus, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking, there she is. And I walked up, and I was like, if one wants to apply for the priestess training, how do I go about it? And she was like, well, you apply, and then I intuitively know if you're going to be on it or not. And I was like, oh, she's not going to let me be on it. But and I keep talking forever, but it's just a funny thing, because I applied, or I thought I applied. I wrote the application, but then I was a bit scared, because I was like, no, I can't be a priestess. I don't even know. And so I left that letter in storage in Scotland while we were cycling around Scotland for a month. And then when we were cycling around, all I saw were the mountains in shape of the goddess, like lying down. And I was like, so I wrote a letter to Kathy going, I have the application, but it's in storage in Scotland, and I'm going to send it straight away when we get back. And that's long story, but that's how I ended up with Kathy in Glastonbury, in Avalon. Yeah.
That's so exciting. It feels like it's first of all, like just being in those islands is so
Yeah.
like amazing in Scotland, and yeah,
Yes.
it's really special. And then you had this, because I'm thinking like how was it back then? It was something that was so like unknown, but you felt it intuitively. Like, did you feel a calling to that place? How was your connection to the lands and everything?
Yes, I think, I mean, I've always been drawn to England and Scotland, and I mean the UK, I think, for some reason. And then, but I didn't really know about Avalon, and now afterwards I kind of think that was the calling. That was when the Lady of Avalon called me, and I was really drawn to her energies, and I didn't really know what it meant even, but I'm so glad that I just followed that and trusted that, because I've always been like a really scared person. I'm frightened of everything new, and I'm, always think I'm going to fail at everything. And so I think that was really brave of me to actually do that. And I remember going down, I lived in London then when I started the training, and I went on the bus to Glastonbury. I didn't know what it, obviously I've been there a day or two, but the bus arrived late at night, and I was staying at the Backpackers, and then, just stepping into that space of the training in the morning, not knowing like, what are we even going to do? I didn't know what we were going to do, because I'd never heard of anyone who'd done the training, and didn't know anyone who was going to be on it. And I'd met Kathy, and like you said, there was no social media. It was just like a flyer that I'd read about, become a priestess of Avalon. I was like, okay. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And maybe I think some listeners might not know exactly like the myths of Avalon and how Glastonbury is connected to this. Maybe you want to share that, because I think it's so magical to listen to this.
Yes, I mean, the relevant part to me, I guess, is that they say that Glastonbury, or which is like, can be seen as an island in the landscape. So that's like in the olden days, as I say, that used to be an island, and that used to be a place where priestesses lived, because it's a sacred land. And then the myth is that Glastonbury and Avalon, kind of when Christianity came in, the priestesses and the goddess were pushed into another, behind the veil, sort of into another, what's the word? Reality, into
like
another
dimension, maybe?
Dimension, that's it, yes. So now it's like Glastonbury and Avalon are there at the same time. And so in meditation and in ceremony, we can kind of enter deeper into that space and experience those energies of that of the goddess whose face, whose aspect is really strong in Glastonbury. Because as I see it, and I guess most people see it, as like there's one goddess, and she's got like a million faces and a million different energies. So the Lady of Avalon is just like one aspect, one vibration that is very strong in Glastonbury and in Avalon.
Yeah, and I feel like, so for me, so I visited, it was really like just a last minute thing I did back in 2000, and it must have been 18. I just felt like this like sudden need to go there, so I went there. And I think it was definitely in July of that year, and it was actually over Mary Magdalene's feast day, it so happened, and I've really felt drawn to her as well. And I feel like there is definitely, so there's many places on earth that have these power grids and energy channels and openings, and this place definitely has that, especially since this energy has been worked on for this long, and you can really feel it in the whole like village. It's so apparent that it's so open to so many different faiths and practices. So I really felt that, and I ended up staying in a guest house below the tour, like on the, like, I think it was passing Chalice Wells and all of this, and a little bit further away, but, and it was definite, and there's ley lines going down there as well, and I could feel it the whole trip, and I had very beautiful experience up on the hill as well. So it's something mystical, and I think if you go there, you will experience something, or it will at least like create a transformation or something within you, even if you're not feeling it when you're there. But I really was fascinated, loved to visit the goddess temple there. And I'm curious because we have like, I feel like the wheel of the year has been so much applied now into the way we work in so many, like all different types of energy modalities, and now that we're connecting more to Mother Earth, like the basis of your practice. So the wheel of the year is one. Maybe you want to dive deeper into that practice.
Yes, I love that, because that's also like the core of my work, is being cyclical and being a cyclical being, and how much better I think we feel if we're able to tune in to the different cycles. So for example, as we see the wheel of the year, if we start at midwinter, for example, and there's in my tradition, that's the element of air, so it's about like quiet and kind of clearing out the things that we don't need, and going inwards and meditating and connecting to the ancestors and the star people. And so it's about really the stillness, so that we can really recover and rest. And then as we move towards spring, the energies start to wake up, and at first it's just that tiny little spark, that imbolc in February, and we kind of go, oh, waking up, but not quite. We got to take it quite easy, because we don't want to rush into anything. And then that the spring equinox, it's like that's the fire. So in my tradition, that's where the fire element is. So it's the creativity and new ideas and starting new projects, and we move on through Beltane, which is like passion and sexuality and sensuality, and we move. I always feel like I throw myself out at the spring equinox, and then I sort of start to land again at the summer solstice within the element of water, with all the emotions and kind of being held in the ocean of Mother Ocean, and just sort of going, oh, what happened? What did I do? All these projects that I started or didn't start, and what was I thinking? And just, I mean, at that time also going, I always think like going deep into the ocean and not quite knowing what's there, and also trying to see how can I flow with what I've started and what I've learned so far, and like also working on sort of overcoming obstacles and seeing that, am I creating problems for myself? Am I stuck on things? Can I just go with the flow of the river? And then now is the time when we're coming into the earth element and the darkness, so that the days are getting shorter, and I always feel like, okay, I've had all this energy, and I went through the water, and now I'm sort of landing with both feet on the ground and starting to slow down again. And I think it's really important that we do that as a society. And instead, it's like we come back from holiday and we're supposed to just like, okay, now we're going to set new goals and we're going to do this. And I'm like, I can be there, but I just got to take it at my own pace, because I just don't, I can't, it's like I can't it's like my inner pace. I have to know what I'm doing. I have to follow my own heart and my inner pace, even though I'm working at a normal job where I have to do all these other things. But it's like, if I know where I'm at, and I know where I'm at in my own cycle, and if I know where we are in the season, and if I know where the moon is at, it's kind of, I listen to all that now, and it's not like I do it perfectly, because I struggle with low self-esteem and anxiety and depression and all that, but I understand it a bit more, and I can kind of see, especially when it's connected to my own cycle, I can sort of go, okay, this is going to be one of these weeks, or it's going to be one of these days. But it's like I listen to myself, and I look at the cycles. And I think it's so beneficial. And that's also what I try and teach, I guess, with my work, to sort of, when I hold my ceremonies, it's always like we're tuning into that specific energy of the season, so that we're able to just take, like, if my ceremony is an hour, and it's like, well, now we're tuning into that for an hour. And I think that's so beneficial, even because then, of course, we take that energy with us into our normal lives and spread that. So yeah, see, I love this. I get so passionate.
Yeah, and it's really amazing, and everything that you said about having like an awareness of these cycles, and awareness of the moon, awareness of where we are in nature, because we are nature as well. We're not a separate thing, and that we're like this foreign object on Earth. So we're really like tuned in a way that if we like stop and feel, we can really harness that time. Because I feel like a lot of like how society is that it's like a straight line, or it's an upward line all the time, and it's a like linear thing, and we can't be like that, because if you see how society has developed and how people are feeling, it's not working out. And then also, if you are a bleeding woman, or anyways, if you have a womb, you have your cycles, and even without as well, like you have these different phases, just as Earth has. And it's really like, it's like 1 month can be like week to week so different. So I feel like that's really important so we see the correlation and the similarities, and we start connecting with that, and then everything seems so magical, because then nothing is a coincidence anymore, and everything is so synchronized. So I think that's really beautiful. And we are coming up to the equinox here in the northern hemisphere, the autumn or fall equinox. So what is important for you at this time? Like, it's about 3 weeks from now as we're speaking.
Yes, I guess for me it's really important to start to slow down, and also to look at balance in my life, to see, like, am I working too much? Which, well, obviously, because I'm in a full-time job, I always think I'm working too much, because I'm not built for that. But also sort of seeing, because I'm such a hermit and I love being at home all by myself. And then I have to go, okay, but I really enjoy seeing friends. So maybe I need to just go, okay, I'm going to see some friends now, just to get like a balance, because I know that makes me feel so much better. But then I also know that if I see friends, then I have to have time to rest. So it can be just things like that, is looking at my energy levels and making sure that I'm looking after myself. And also, this season is about gratitude for me, and just noticing that, well, saying thank you for everything that I've got, from the tiniest little thing to having a home. And also, I think it's important for me to look at what I have achieved, because I'm not very nice to myself sometimes, and I think, gosh, why haven't I got a big goddess temple? And if I was different, if I was this and that, and then to go, well, look at what I've created, and look at what I've shared and how that's made me feel, and how much I love this work that I'm doing as a priestess, which is, only on weekends and evenings, and how much energy that gives me, and be really grateful that I'm able to do that. So yes, gratitude, balance, grounding, and I think it can take some, I don't know, I kind of like when the evenings get a bit darker, but it's all, I don't want to, I know that some people go, oh no, 6 months of darkness, that's terrible. But I like to sort of go, oh, what do I enjoy about this season? Like lighting candles and picking mushrooms, and, those clear autumn days, or staying inside when it's rainy. And so it's sort of looking at all those little things that I can appreciate in every season. So I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, I also appreciate this when it's the start of this season, because it really allows you to, especially if you are, as me and you, like more of it, like I always say that I'm like a introvert, but at the same time I am social, but I really need the time to be with myself, and I get very exhausted sometimes in the summers, but I really love the summer. But yeah, this time is really like a good time to, because we have experienced the shift here quite a lot, and now it's a little bit summery again with the sun, but it's getting cooler. So the change of this element is really beautiful. And I really feel like what happens at the equinox, moving towards the solstice, the winter solstice, it's always like, if I look back, and one can think about this time of year, like between if we're in the northern hemisphere now in mid-September or end of September up until end of December, it's really like always it's been like so transformational. It's kind of like a death, because also nature is dying, and we get the time to descend and to really work with that energy, which is it's the way of the goddess as well. It's not like only like the light and energetic and all of these aspects. And what draws me to that is also the connection I've had to so from my roots of Mesopotamia, I've actually, not from a mind perspective that I connected with this aspect of the goddess. It just happened in a journey, a shamanic journey. I didn't know so much, because so much of these old traditions has been forgotten, just as here in Sweden as well. Like now maybe people are remembering it, but working with this deep descent is also the path of Ishtar or Inanna. It's the same aspect of the goddess, different names. But you've had a course in this. Maybe you want to share. I would love to learn more from you about her, this face of the goddess.
Yes, and I'm thinking you probably actually know more about it. I always go like, well, I go on, when I create, I go on feeling. I'm like, I sort of get the feeling of Inanna, and there's something I want to share there. So for me, what I love about her is her journey from the light to the darkness and then back again. And as she goes down, she sort of takes off all her layers, and that to me symbolizes everything that I'm hiding behind, all my masks, all my how I think I should be, how I think other people thinks that I should be, and sort of just getting rid of all of that, so that finally somewhere down there I can stand, naked and stripped, and just as my own soul. And from there, going back up again to the light again. And it can mean so many things. So there's that stripping of the layers, but there's also, I think, when if I've gone into deep depressions before, and that's also to me like going down into the darkness, and I know that Goddess is there holding me and I'm not alone, and I might be there down there in the darkness with her. And in other myths it's like she's stirring her cauldron and I can just throw everything in there that I don't want, and then again kind of her guiding me back to the light slowly again. So it's like an initiation, I think, because I always try and see if when I've been in these deep depressions or periods when I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, this is hopeless, I'm going to give everything up. I know by now that something will come out of this. I will learn something from this, or when I come out, it will be like I understand something that I didn't understand before. And it's not like I sit there in my depression and I'm happy about that. It's like, but at least I can trust that that's how it normally works. So yes, so that's it's like a remembering those myths and those types of energies can help me. And I guess to me, how does Inanna feel? Really powerful, really strong, sort of, when stripped of all those layers, there's just that power, there's just that sort of, this is it. I know I know who I am, and it's just like fighting on from there and standing in my own radiance. And not, sounds wrong when I say I don't care, but it kind of is. I don't care. I shouldn't have to care what other people think about me or what I think they might think, which is my problem. So there's that power, there's that independence and that freedom, I think, also that I get from her.
Yeah, it is really powerful. And I almost feel like when we go into that really deep, dark place in life, which we all have to do in one or another way, that reminds us of that faith and surrender. Because I feel like that's when, especially like when you said, like when you come out of it, you see like you have even more capability of compassion and to yourself, and you have more understanding, and you have even like everything that is the goddess, you have more of her in you. I really felt like that, because it's in times when you have truly surrendered, that's when you like really when you're at a point where you've like in that deepest place, that's when it, like as you said, she's holding you. And I love that feeling of that. So like in a sense, it's always like with the mother, it's like unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. And I think that's why I love also working with the goddess and the feminine aspects, because I feel like that's what the world needs to embody more. And we live in like this dark light balance, yin yang balance all the time in the world. And when we feel like something is going very wrong, it's also like a collective descent, and we have to face what has not been faced. So it's a reminder. So, and this is also in cycles, so it's not like okay, now I figured everything out, now I can move on, and that would be almost boring. Like, okay, maybe we don't want to go like so deep every time, because that would also be very exhausting. But at the same time, when it happens, then we know, like we're super aware of what's happening, and we can almost, in mindfulness and meditation, like become the observer of it and still feel it and embody that energy. So I really feel that. And for me, she's also like Ishtar, or Inanna's stories has to do with like truly being, like you said, like having this self-love that you love every part of yourself, because in her story she really like loves and takes like she's not belittling herself or being embarrassed of taking what she deserves, and which can be seen in like history, how and in her stories you can see also how they change over time, how the patriarchal system started to readjust her stories and everything. But I mean, she was like an really ancient like queen and goddess. And I love also you mentioned in the winter like working with star beings, which I'm also like right now in a phase during this whole summer, like realizing that these different aspects that we are working with might be also star beings that has somehow come into our consciousness. How have you worked with that, and how is that connected to the winter solstice?
Well, it's just, I don't really know, to be honest. It's just like a sense that I have that, you know, I guess it's connected to the darkness and seeing the stars. And also in the last few years I've sort of started to read a bit more about star beings, and I'm thinking, what are they doing out there? Where are they? And I've sort of felt like there's some kind of connection, but I don't really know what it is at the moment, but I'm open to it. And so the way that I do it is I just call them in. If I'm in a meditation, or if I'm doing a ceremony at the winter solstice or around there, I call them in and I just welcome them. And I don't know what they do, if they do anything, or if I'm connecting to them, but I guess I just kind of call them in, welcome them, and I trust that something might happen, or it might not. It just is as it is. But yeah, so it's kind of a new exploration for me, just inviting them. And I guess I think like it feels quite nice to welcome them, because I'm thinking they're out there somewhere. I don't know in what shape or form, but it just seems to me, it just seems like, well, they are out there. I don't know, in another dimension, or are they real somewhere? Are, you know, traveling? I have no idea, but it's just an interesting exploration that I don't know much about, but I'm open.
Yeah, and what you're saying also is like something in the collective. I feel like that it's opening up, because more and more people are like, even if I think I've always felt like I know that there's something, but I feel like the past years, and especially this past year, has become very much in my consciousness that there is something. And then like thinking about all these myths and stories and beings that we see all over the world, and they're really matching. I'm actually also thinking about the Sumerian and the Egyptian and the Hindu mythologies. Like it feels like if everything is made up from a consciousness, it has no shape or form, but everything that has been created of this consciousness, it could be everything. Because if we think that we have a consciousness, we can make up anything. So if there's a consciousness that has made up this entire universe and galaxies and everything that is never ending, then why there's nothing that is impossible. And I mean, if one reads about the mythologies, and even in the Old Testament and everything, it's very clear to researchers now that it sounds like there are these star beings that have somehow brought knowledge and information, and just reading about stories, listening to people's stories in this life, like what they've experienced, it's so fascinating. So it's like a curiosity. I feel like if I wouldn't be curious anymore, then I don't know what I would do. Like it's just this constant learning. And I feel like I loved the thing that you said, that certain things initiate us. Like we have certain things in life that truly are experiences that we can see as initiations, and it doesn't have to be that it's a formal initiation. It's like it's really something that upgrades our consciousness or unlocks memory, or like it's so interesting with that. And I think that you mentioned that in the descent, that's definitely a initiation. It really shifts our awareness. Yeah. And but just maybe I should have asked this question before, because maybe everyone doesn't know exactly what it means to be a priestess. Like what does a priestess do, and how does it differ from what we've learned from like these old religions or the monotheistic religions about what a priest is? Then
yes, I guess a priestess is, so it's always like, what on earth do I do? No, but it's like it's about, as a priestess, using all that I've learned and all that I'm continuously learning to kind of bring Goddess alive in the world, which means if someone is interested and if someone wants to learn, then I can share what I've learned through my work. And I feel it's like honoring the energies, honoring the earth, honoring honoring the land, honoring the trees and the rocks and the water. It just feels like, as a priestess, I'm aware of, I mean, you don't have to be a priestess to do that, but just being aware of everything that's around me, and that it's alive, and that there's this energy that flows through everything. And so I think that's what it is. I just being able to share everything that I've learned, like I said, but also I think as a priestess, it's my responsibility to work on myself and to explore, to kind of peel those layers off all the time. Because I was saying earlier this year, I think that like sometimes I just want to take off the label priestess, because it's like, well, it's like a label that I use so that people can kind of know what I'm doing, but it's not like I go around going, I am a priestess of Avalon with my staff, and it's also like a reminder for me. So it's a good label for me, because it reminds me of my promise to Goddess to stand up for her and to awaken as much as I can, and to always explore, you know, how can I find it hard to explain, but how can I, when I peel off these layers and take off my masks and stand up for myself, to find my true essence and to just stand in that and to know who I am and to be true to myself. And I think then other people can hopefully look at me and be inspired, or be inspired by my work. And so I'm not hiding behind some ego, because I think then it's difficult for people to really connect and really feel what I'm doing. And I mean, it's challenging. It's very challenging, I find, but I love it. I love exploring all these. I love exploring the layers of myself and learning more through meditation and through ceremony and reading, you know, from all different traditions. So it's not like I'm just stuck on the Lady of Avalon and Glastonbury. It's like I use Buddhist meditations, and I follow Ram Dass. I love him. And I've learned so much from his teachings. And so it's kind of like I use everything, because, you know, there's only one divine force. And I sort of, I always think like there's like that a rainbow of a million colors, and the Lady of Avalon and the Goddess and the Divine Feminine, there's like one color that I'm drawn to specifically and work with, but there's like so much more out there. So I've answered a little bit of your question and I've gone off on the rainbow, but
no,
maybe,
I love that.
maybe that explains it.
I like that visual. It's really beautiful that we see that we can, like, if we're in devotion, we can be in devotion in so many different ways. That's beautiful. And that we hold this, this color or this form or this sense. And what you said also is so important, that like for all healers and teachers and everything, that we're actually working with ourselves. Like probably that's why we're doing this work. But what I'm doing or what you're doing is also affecting the whole collective. We're taking responsibility for ourselves, which is reflects on everything and everyone. And that's how we do heal, and that's how we do transform as a collective. And we all are here for different purposes and reasons. And so, it's not good or bad. It's just, it just is. And
it's just,
and when you're called, like, there's no doubt. But as you said, it can be scary at first when you feel the calling, but you're not sure. And then it's like, it can become scary because you have to start facing everything. It's like, okay, if I choose this path, I think it's unconsciously that we know that, okay, if I choose this path, I know I have to like really dive deep, and these layers. I can't live on the superficial plane anymore, which is not a bad thing. It just is. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you for explaining that. And I would love for you to also share, like, what are you doing and sharing right now, if people want to connect with you, work with you. I'm gonna link to all of your website and social media here in the episode as well, but maybe you want to share anything else.
Yes, well, if you're in Sweden and listening to this, I've got my seasonal ceremony, so you can find that on my website, and that's an online ceremony. And it's, before I started doing online ceremonies, I thought, how can that really work? It feels like so distant, but it's just magical. And I absolutely love that. And if you're not in Sweden or speak Swedish, I also have online courses, and I've got a really, really lovely one about where you work with the elements one at a time for a week or however long you want to, but it's set up for like a 5-week course, a preparation, and then each of the elements. And I just think that's because that's how I started, like with going through each of the elements to then get to open up, to be able to open up to Goddess in a different way, because then you kind of learn how does fire feel within me, and what does fire represent for me, and how does fire affect me in my life, for example. And then when you meet a fire goddess, for example, if you're in meditation and you kind of have a goddess, you connect with fire, you can sense her within you. I always feel like, really experiencing the energies of the goddess and of the elements. And I think starting with the elements is that's why I created the course, because I think it's a really good foundation, or even if you've been walking this path for a long time, to kind of, sometimes you just need to, I'm going back to basics again, and just going through the elements and just giving myself that gift, really. So I think, I do courses that are anything from 1 week to 5 weeks. So there's a few to explore, and I love them all, and I love creating them. And I'm going to start working on a mindfulness course now, because I think mindfulness and just presence is like the key to this work, even though mindfulness in the West has become like a bit it's like so proper and clean and medical, and I'm like, no, let's bring the heart back. It's the heart that's important, just being. So I'm going to start working on that soon. So who knows if it will be finished or not because of my cyclical way of working, but that's my plan.
It will get born at some point anyways.
Yes.
It's just putting that seed in. And yeah, that's amazing. And definitely the elements, I mean, we are the elements, our body is made from the elements, so getting in touch with that is actually very important. And I feel like the elements are different medicines for us. Like we can really use it, and you can when you shift into being very aware of an element, you can heal so much in yourself, which is like, it's about the balance. So I think that's beautiful. I'm gonna link everything. And then you also have a Swedish podcast with Veronica, who's been my guest, our mutual friend.
Yes, I've got two.
Oh
yeah, that's it. We've got one goddess podcast, and we've got called Prästinnans väg, and we've got meditation podcast, podden om meditation. And then I've just started a third one, obviously, because I can't contain myself. And I've only got one episode, but it's called A Circle of Sisters. So that's in English, and it's I'm trying to kind of copy what you're doing and talking to other people about this. So yeah, so I've got one out. So everyone, I would love it if you listen to that, because I haven't promoted it that much. And I talked to Sarah Cornforth, who's like a moon wisdom person in the UK. And it was a really lovely chat. So
wow, yeah, I have to listen to that. I missed it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you have the two ones in Swedish, and then this newest one in English. That's perfect. We have different both English speaking here and other countries, so it's good to have English one. So happy to have you here and to connect with you again. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. I'm sure so many people are interested in the work that you're doing and this beautiful like goddess work in general. It's really becoming more and more awakened in our consciousness. So I'm really grateful that you came.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute joy.
Thank you.